It was 7:15 a.m. in Nashville when I opened the email that rocked my world. My 1-year-old daughter Emma was babbling happily in her high chair, completely unaware that her father had just blown up our lives with a single message. The subject line read, "Oh, moving on," and I nearly spilled my coffee when I opened the attachment and saw the photo of Donald, my husband of 5 years, wrapped around a young blonde woman who couldn't have been older than 23. They were standing in front of our lake house, our vacation home that we had purchased only a year prior. Donald truly believed he could just email me divorce papers and take our vacation home, which I had paid for with the profits from my business. He had no idea what was coming. I looked at our daughter, who was still happy and innocent, playing with her breakfast, and then I looked at the framed photo on our property. Now that the email had been declared and I had already moved in with Amber, my lawyer will be sending over the divorce papers. Don't bother fighting it. The deed is in my name. I felt my hands shaking as I put down my coffee mug, but not out of fear, but rather out of pure rage. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone, hovering my finger over Donald's contact information for a moment before clicking block. I then opened my email and typed 2 simple sentences in reply. "Are you sure about that? Better check the paperwork carefully." I hit send, blocked his email, and turned back to my daughter, smiling. Donald had always underestimated me, seeing me as the accommodating wife who had supported his career while I built my own business on the side. Kitchen wall, Donald and I on our wedding day. Both of us grinned as if we had the world figured out. He probably assumed that I would cry and perhaps plead with him to change his mind, but he had overlooked one important fact about me. I didn't build a successful business by being careless with protecting my assets. Looking back, I should have recognized this coming because I was too busy balancing my expanding business and our new baby. Donald had been visiting the lake house on a regular basis for work purposes over the past 3 months, claiming that he needed some quiet time to work on a major corporate merger. I had started my business from scratch while assisting him in his career moves, and when we first met 6 years ago, I was already operating a profitable online business. The lake house had been my idea, a perfect getaway for our family, close enough to Nashville for weekend trips but far enough to feel like a real escape. I had paid for it entirely with the profits from my business, but Donald insisted on having his name on the deed for tax purposes. He said I had agreed, but not before having my lawyer draft some very specific documents about the property's true ownership. Donald pretended it was just a cute hobby, but he loved telling people how he had helped me turn it into something real. The truth is that my business has tripled in value since we got married, all thanks to my own hard work and strategic planning. I picked Emma up from her high chair and held her close, breathing in her sweet baby scent. She had Donald's eyes, but I could already see my determination in the way she tackled every new challenge. Looking at her now, my resolve strengthened. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting her future too. I walked to my home office with Emma on my hip and opened my laptop within minutes. When I had asked him about the merger, he had gotten defensive, snapping that I wouldn't understand the complexities of corporate finance, rich coming from a man whose investment portfolio I had been secretly managing for the past 3 years. Amber may have been celebrating her victory at the lake house, but she had no idea that she was the subject of a video that would play a major role in my divorce proceedings. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel, my assistant, saying, "I'm Julia. You need to see this attached." It was a link to Amber's Instagram profile, which had dozens of pictures of her with Donald dating back months. Some of the pictures were even taken in our bedroom at the lake house with her. I then retrieved the security camera feed I had installed at the property as an additional precaution. In one picture from 8 months ago, Amber was holding up a key to the lake house with pride, with the caption, "Taint home sweet home with my love, hard eyes, new chapter moving in together." I felt sick when she flashed a huge diamond ring, my grandmother's ring, which Donald had promised we would gift to Emma on her 18th birthday. My clothes and belongings were used in the most recent post. Donald had been playing house with a woman who was just out of college while I was up all night with our newborn, and the dates on the pictures matched his business exactly. The second blow came when I opened my banking app and saw that the joint account where I had deposited money for Emma's college fund was empty. Every penny of the nearly $100,000 that had been transferred out yesterday to an account I didn't recognize. The rage I had felt earlier transformed into something cold and calculating. I called my bank right away, then my lawyer, and within an hour I had confirmation that Donald had been methodically moving money around for months, even trying to access my business. He had claimed he was working late every weekend and that he needed to check on the lake house. All of this had been lies, and my hands were shaking. While I was on the phone with the lawyer, Julia, Rachel called and sent me a series of screenshots from Amber's private Facebook page. The girl had been boasting to her friends about landing a rich older man and how they planned to take his adoring wife for everything she was worth. There were even jokes about how unaware I was because I was too busy with my little online shop to notice what was happening. Little did they know that little online shop had made me a millionaire 3 times over. I had kept that information private, so Donald thought my business was his ego had prevented him from looking at my company's books to fully comprehend what I had created. I looked at Emma, who was now sleeping soundly in her playpen. "Don't worry, baby girl," I whispered, "because mommy is going to teach daddy a lesson about undervaluing women in business." My lawyer Sarah arrived at my house just before noon, and we spent the next few hours in a frenzy of activity. Emma napped upstairs while Rachel kept watch, and I had hired additional security for the house because I had a feeling Donald wouldn't take my email response. "Tint, he's not as smart as he seems." I nodded and pulled up the security camera feeds on my laptop. Here's more. The footage showed Donald and Amber entering the lake house at different times over the past months. But what really caught Sarah's attention was the footage from 2 days ago that showed Donald carrying box after box of items from the house, including several pieces of art I had bought with my company profits. A deed may be in his name, but we have ironclad proof that your business funds purchased the property, the transfer records, the contracts, even the emails where he admits it was your money. It's all here, Sarah said, looking at the lake house documentation. "Tense attempted theft of business assets," Sarah said, making notes. "Art collection was purchased through your company for tax purposes. We have the documentation." Just then, I put my phone on speaker and thought, "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Donald's voice was sharp and angry. "So I checked your business email, Julia. My lawyers have also been busy, so I pulled up my email and felt sick to my stomach. Donald's lawyers had filed an emergency petition claiming my business was built using his expertise and connections, and they were demanding a full audit and temporary control of my company's accounts during the divorce proceedings." I remained calm in spite of my racing heart. "It's a company I founded before I even met you. Someone you created," laughed icily. "What do you think gave you all those corporate contacts who introduced you to the right people? Face it, Julia, you wouldn't have anything without me." Amber knows how to express gratitude. I turned to Sarah, who was already typing frantically on her laptop. She held up a finger. She waited for Donald. I unmuted the phone to buy time. "You're too busy with your valuable business to be a good mother. Amber is excellent with children. She was a nanny once." Taking Emma made my blood run cold, but before I could reply, Sarah slid her laptop over to me. On the screen was an email from 3 years ago that Donald had sent to a friend, complaining about my success. "She won't listen to my business advice at all, saying she doesn't need my help and that her company is worth more than my annual salary. It's embarrassing." I smiled into the phone. "Oh, Donald, I just sent something to your lawyer. You might want to check with him before making any more threats about my company. I wonder how he would feel about all those corporate contacts you said you gave me." The line went silent, and then it clicked. Rachel was still going through Donald's emails when she suddenly rushed into the office. Her face was pale, Julia, and she thrust her tablet in front of me. On the screen, she showed me a draft press release from Donald's company announcing his promotion to Chief Financial Officer, effective next month. Suddenly, everything fell into place. The timing of his affair with Amber, the calculated moves with our accounts, and the aggressive legal strategy. "There's more." Rachel swiped to another document. "And Amber isn't just any old girlfriend, she's the CEO's niece." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Donald hadn't fallen for a younger woman. Instead, he had planned a relationship with the CEO's niece to get his promotion, the lake house, the stolen money, and even the threats about Emma. All of this was part of his plan to start a new life as CFO with his ideal, well-connected young wife. Sarah looked up from her laptop, and I discovered something else. The company merger Donald has been working on involves one of your biggest competitors. If he becomes CFO, he will have access to information that could cause serious harm. I balled my fists and thought about all the nights he had spent in his home office pretending to be working on merger documents. Had he been looking through my business files instead? I told Rachel that if he had seen any attempts to access my business servers while Rachel was working, Sarah had discovered something else. These emails between Donald and Amber from 6 months ago. Amber wrote, "Keen wants your CFO. We can use the insider information to push Julia's company out. Uncle Robert says he'll help." I felt sick thinking about how they had planned to harm me while I was taking care of our newborn daughter, but their haughtiness had made them careless, leaving a trail of evidence that could ruin not only Donald's promotion but also the CEO's reputation. Rachel's voice broke through my thoughts, and I discovered that he had made multiple attempts to access your company's servers from Donald's laptop. He didn't get past your security, but he tried, which is corporate espionage. I got up and went to the window to watch Emma play in her playpen with her favorite stuffed elephant, which Donald thought was so clever, using his relationship with Amber to secure his future, but he had forgotten the most crucial business lesson: never underestimate your opponent. Sarah. I went back to my lawyer and drafted an email to the company's board of directors, including security footage of Donald stealing company assets from the lake house, evidence of Donald's attempted corporate espionage, and the CEO's involvement in using insider information to target a competitor. When Rachel asked about Amber, I grinned grimly, thinking that the board would be very interested in learning how their CEO used a family member to help orchestrate corporate espionage. Board, my phone buzzed with a notification from the lake house security system that Donald was back and that he wasn't alone. Not only was Amber with him, but so was her uncle Robert, the CEO. They were bringing boxes into the house, more of my belongings, no doubt. I told Sarah, watching the live feed, "Let's see what they're doing first." Through the security cameras, we could see them in the living room. The audio was crystal clear, another feature Donald was unaware of, and they were celebrating with champagne glasses in hand. Robert, the future CFO, raised his glass to Donald and to my lovely niece, who made it all possible. Julia had no idea what was going to happen tomorrow morning. The best part is that Amber added that her company will be worthless in a month because our legal team will have control over her company's accounts for audit purposes by the afternoon. She believes that the lake house is her biggest problem, so I froze and said, "Rachel, what offshore accounts?" Her face darkened within minutes, and I discovered that Donald had been diverting money from your joint accounts into offshore holdings for months, not just Emma's college fund. He somehow managed to divert almost $300,000, which was more than I had assumed. He hadn't just been planning. The lake house drama was merely a diversion from his larger plan to leave me, but then Robert said something that made my blood run cold, and Julia's company failed. Our merger proceeds without incident, her market share will be divided among our subsidiaries, and her problematic ethical business model will be reduced to a memory. My company wasn't just successful, it was appending their entire industry with our dedication to sustainable practices and fair labor. This wasn't just about Donald's promotion or his affair. They wanted to destroy everything I had built because it threatened their way of doing things. Business sent the email, but first I added Emma's birthday and the backup server password. Sarah's eyes widened as she opened the file, which contained years of documentation about dubious practices at Donald's company. I had collected this information while managing his investment portfolio and had kept it as insurance, never realizing I would need it. Rachel interrupted, staring at her screen, and Donald just attempted to access our company servers again from the lake house. He's getting desperate. So I watched through the camera as Donald excused himself to the home office, where he sat at my desk, likely attempting to hack into my business accounts again. But this time our ID team was prepared. They had set up a fake portal that gave him the impression that he was winning and wanted to let him in. I told Rachel when to let him believe he had won because in about 10 minutes, that board email went out and their entire house of cards fell apart. Before I hit send, I took one last look at the security feed, where Robert and Donald Amber were still celebrating their fictitious victory. The response was quicker than I had anticipated, and a few minutes after Sarah sent the email, Robert's phone rang. We saw his face going pale as he listened to what I assumed was the board's immediate as we watched the scene unfold. Donald's phone began to ring with notifications that someone had anonymously sent her private Facebook messages to every board member, including the ones in which she boasted about helping Donald steal corporate information from the security guard. "What do you mean? Emergency meeting?" he shouted into the phone. "What? Who sent what evidence?" Donald grabbed his own phone, presumably checking his email. He muttered, "Snee you. Julia knew I was trying to access them and gets better." To Sarah, the last thing I saw before the feed cut off was Donald being led out in handcuffs while still yelling that the house was his. The fallout was spectacular within 24 hours. The camera captured the exact moment their celebration turned to panic, with Robert screaming into his phone, Donald frantically trying to close his laptop, Amber crying, and mascara running down her face, and police cars pulling up to the lake house with lights flashing. It turns out that corporate espionage and financial fraud are serious crimes. Who knew? I picked up Emma and held her close as we watched through the cameras and that baby girl. The board's investigation revealed more than I had previously realized, including the conspiracy against my company and years of fraudulent activities. Amber's involvement in corporate espionage destroyed her burgeoning influencer career. Last I heard, she had returned to living with her parents in Ohio. The offshore accounts were frozen and investigated, and every penny that Donald had stolen was returned with interest. The lake house turned out to be a great way to lose any claim to property, and the deed was transferred to my name, where it should have been all along. Donald attempted to apologize, sending long emails detailing how he had lost after the scandal. My company's ethical business model attracted even more investors, expanding into markets where Donald's company had dominated our reputation for integrity, drawing customers who had lost faith in traditional corporations. Emma and I spent weekends at the lake house, creating new memories, but sometimes when I'm sitting on the deck watching her play, I think about Donald's smug email with that photo he thought he was using. He had been seduced by power and a younger woman, and I never responded. The divorce papers were clear. He lost everything he had attempted to steal, and some evidence of his corporate espionage meant he would never work in finance again, declaring his victory when, in reality, he was only recording the start of his demise. I saved that email in my office as a reminder to never undervalue a woman who has created anything valuable.